Unbelievable video out this week of Mexican drug lord El Chapo's rearrest after his escape from prison 6 months ago. Meanwhile, new calls to help out El Chapo's clients over here by overhauling our criminal justice system. The reforms would lower mandatory minimum sentences for certain drug offenders and give judges more say in doling out sentences for less serious crimes. But, Steve, could this put our lives, property, and our businesses at greater risk?
Well, the problem with these kind of reforms, David, is that they then become a numbers game where you just want to reduce the number of people in prison. Many of the people who are in for seemingly mild crimes on drugs actually are plea bargained down from more violent crimes.
True.
So you almost have to go on a case-by-case basis. And in terms of violent crimes, yes, they should be in prison, but even non-violent crimes. Bernie Madoff ripped off and many people, stole billions of dollars. So it's almost on a case-by-case basis, not these sweeping reforms that make politicians feel good.
So, John, it's kind of like Obamacare. One size doesn't fit all.
No, it definitely doesn't, but it is a shame that there are so many people incarcerated today, not because they brought harm to others, but because they sold or used a substance that politicians have deemed bad for us. We've got to get government out of the personal choices in life and reduce the number of people in prison by extension.
All right, but, Kerry, this stuff is bad for us, and with all the soft drug laws in California and Colorado and a president who doesn't want to enforce drug laws in many states, look what's happened. Heroin use in the United States has gone up dramatically. It's about doubled, and this is what's really shocking. Heroin overdoses. Look at the number of deaths in the United States from 2004 to 2014, from 1,800 to over 10,000.
Well, yeah, no, and it's true that, you know, some of the easier drugs are gateway drugs into these more serious drugs. But at the same time, I actually think this speaks more to broader cultural reforms that we need. We need a culture that says, you know, we provide alternatives to drugs where we are compassionate if you have an addiction. This is something that's come up again and again in the campaign trail. In New Hampshire, it's been a big issue with Chris Christie talking about it. So I think our default should be innocent until proven guilty, and I think that's what the approach and what they're trying to do here.
But, Sabrina, again, I don't think it's just coincidence. You have the softer drug laws, and you have an increase in heroin use and overdoses that's staggering.
You know, I know it sort of seems like a causal impact, but I suspect that this is sort of self-selection, right? We are also dealing with a situation right now where we don't have a very strong economy, where people don't necessarily have the educational opportunities that they need, and as Kerry points out, where we have families in decline, so we can't really separate those things out entirely. I do think, though, that we are of a vicious sort of incarceration cycle right now where people can't get back on their feet, and so whether it's case by case, we have to reform
Quickly,
it.
Mike?
Well, this is probably the one case where I'm glad both Democrats and Republicans are working together because, as Steve pointed out, it's a very complicated problem. There isn't one easy solution.
Rich, what do you think?
We have to be much tougher on violent criminals, and I think we have to be more lenient with nonviolent criminals.
Right, that's true. That's what the data shows. I mean, the Manhattan Institute has looked at this. If you're a violent criminal, you're much less likely to be rehabilitated back into society. If you're a violent criminal, you're much more dangerous and you're much more likely to reincarcerate.
And I see Steve nodding yes.
It's absolutely true. And again, it's got to be case by case because, again, plea bargain disguises the nature of some of these criminals.
All right, coming up, with markets getting hammered this week, our informers have the picks ready for a market